one is the one on everybody's mind, and we'll start with that in just a couple of moments. We will also spend a little time in our second segment talking about the free fall of 60 Minutes on CBS in a stunning audio clip from Scott Pelley, one of the hosts of 60 Minutes, who basically waved the white flag and threw in the towel last night on their show after their executive producer resigned last week. Stan Weber will join us at 10:30. Stan Weber's a football analyst, and he is terrific. We'll talk a little bit there about the Chiefs draft and the topic that Mark and Pete were just talking about, that is Shedeur Sanders and what happened with him in this draft, and then the prank phone call. We'll get Stan's insight. And, of course, we'll finish up with some great stuff with Mark at the end of the show, including a 75-year anniversary for a legendary Kansas City business this weekend as they open for their 75th year. We'll do all that ahead on Uncanceled on this Monday, where we're all still in shock over what happened with this firefighter paramedic, Graham Hoffman, 29 years old, 7 years on the job in Kansas City. Late on Saturday night, after midnight, early Sunday morning, there's a call that there's a woman walking around on 152 highway, and passersby are concerned for her. And so the call comes out to go respond and see what's going on, and they see that she has a cut, she has a laceration, and they're going to help her out. And after a while, apparently, they decide they're going to transport her to the hospital. It was quite some time. Graham Hoffman gets in the transportation vehicle to go to the hospital to help her out, and we don't have the details of exactly what transpired inside there, how it worked, but we know this. The woman had a knife, and she stabbed Graham Hoffman in the chest, in the heart. And he then was the critical patient, and how they subdued her at that point with no weapons of their own. These are firefighters and paramedics who have no way to defend themselves, really, that I'm aware of, other than maybe, I don't know if they have mace or some sort of spray. I don't know what it would be that they have. They're basically on their own. Woman has a knife, and this is happening. And, of course, we know what happened. Tragically, Graham Hoffman was rushed to the hospital. They did immediate surgery in the emergency room, put him into ICU where he succumbed to his injuries. This woman had been involved in a hit and run a couple of months ago. Last week, she bit a cop, severely bit a cop, and was allowed to walk free, and then a few days later committed murder. So that's three things. That's three real crimes in a very short period of time. My issue with this, and I agree with what Pete's been saying most of the morning, the issue here is the strangeness and severity of the behavior. When you get to the second, somebody's already done the hit and run from the scene. Okay, this is not a good person. You got a problem with this. That's a serious crime. Then you get into an incident with an officer, and you severely bite the cop. Like it was not just like a little tooth mark or something. She like chunk out of this dude and is hauled off, arrested, and then charged with the crime and released on bond. At that point, and I don't know who to blame today, and I'm not going to have any outrage over Democrat versus Republican on this, and this was North Kansas City in a different county. It wasn't Jackson County. I just want to know how we don't have any stopgaps, anything in our system where a judge that's presiding over a case where this woman clearly is crazy. I don't need to be Sigmund Freud to understand that this is not normal behavior. This is either drug-induced or it's psychological, and this person needs to be detained for evaluation. And why we don't have a system in place where we have people that commit crimes like this, and we say, you know what, there's not going to be any bond just yet. You're going to hang out in a facility somewhere where we're going to have people take a good look at you. We're going to see what's in your system, okay? We're going to drug test you. We're going to get you with some counselors and some mental health professionals and find out if there's something really, really weird going on here, and we can't release you into the public. That's clearly the case. I don't know what was going on in her world, but I think most mental health care professionals could have figured that out within a few days if they had detained her. Folks, I'm not talking about CCOT in El Salvador, locking her up in some maximum security prison. I'm talking about we used to have facilities for things like this. We used to have mental health facilities, and they went away because we deemed them cruel and unusual. And, we can't put you in there. We can't have mental health facilities for the crazy people among us. And there are crazy people, and I don't care what you're ever going to tell me about this woman, I'm going to tell you Shanetta Bozell is crazy, or at least was crazy in the last week when she bit a cop and then stabbed a firefighter in the heart. That is not, you don't just all of a sudden at age 38 or 39 years old, 38, decide you're going to become violent. Something's going on in her world that has changed her after 38 years. And I'm not saying she was, some pillar of the community prior to that, but something is going on here. We don't let this person go. And the laws are so, the problem with the law is it's just written, okay, well, this is what the offense was, and it says here's the punishment, and here's what the bail should be, and if you meet bail, you can go out on your own. There has to be something in the system where the judge or somebody can say, you know what, we got a mental health problem here, and I know what the charge is. That's great, but we have to detain this person. They're a danger. If you're biting a cop, you're a danger to society at large. If you're walking around at 12:30 at night on a highway with cuts on your body and people are concerned for you and they call the firefighters and paramedics and they come help you and you wind up stabbing the people trying to help you, something's seriously wrong. Very wrong. Even if it's just drug use and she's, whacked out of her mind. You got to detain those people. You can't turn these people loose. We have to find a way. And I don't have the answer. I wish I had the answer. I don't. This is one of the saddest stories I can ever remember. And they just seem to keep happening. I got an email from one of my podcast listeners over the weekend that his future son-in-law was at a train stop downtown, the streetcar stop, with another young person. They were attending a medical conference. They were getting ready to ride the streetcar to Bartle Hall, where I think this conference was taking place. And a car pulled up, and they rolled the window down and pointed a gun at him, just standing there waiting for a streetcar. They turned and they ran, and the dude fired a shot at him. Neither one of them was hit. And this person who I know that listens to my podcast was like, we're rattled. We are completely and utterly rattled with what goes on in this town. I don't understand how we got here, and I don't think we're just learning more of these stories because of social media. I think there are more of these crazy stories. I think we're just allowing more crazy people out to go do nefarious things. It's a really, really, really sad situation. All right, so I'll turn to something a little more positive here. I recently, in the last 6 weeks or so, I've made a new friend, and he's just a super nice guy. And I never would have guessed his story, but like you, I heard his voice on a commercial here on KCMO Talk Radio for a company called bestofferkc.com. And I heard this accent, and I thought, oh, he sounds like he's Australian. And it turns out he's not Australian. He's from New Zealand. Mark Delatour is a great sponsor here at Uncanceled, bestofferkc.com. And I wanted to share with you because it's been a tradition of mine for the 25 years or whatever doing talk radio, sports radio. When I speak on behalf of a company, it is imperative that I know them and know what they're about. That is my bond with you, the listener. I want you to know that I know Mark and his company and what they're all about. So we kind of set out on this mission. We had a meeting at the radio station. We spent maybe an hour together that way. I went to their offices in Blue Springs. I met all their employees. We sat in a conference room. I met everybody. We talked about what everybody's individual jobs are. Then we went and played some golf together. And that is a great way, obviously, to bond. Mark's a cool dude, okay? He's from New Zealand. He came to Kansas City as a tennis player at UMKC. And that was, well, I don't want to date him, but it was, I think, over 25 years ago. It might have been late 90s. And he never went home. He loved it here. And he's an unbelievable business person, real estate executive, basically. He's the CEO of bestofferkc.com. But they also have some other real estate-related companies under the umbrella of what it is that he does. And it's pretty unbelievable how sharp this guy is, how committed he is to helping people with bestofferkc.com, because they're not just flipping houses. I've learned so much about this industry. You hear about other companies that do this, and many of them are wholesalers. They can literally offer you $100,000 for your home, and then they come back 3 weeks later and say, well, we've got in here, we took a look around, we've dropped the price to 60. Like, it's not concrete. They've never once done that at Best Offer KC. It's normally people that are in a bad situation. They have a medical problem, a personal issue, maybe a divorce, or a distressed property that they need to unload. They need to move out of state to get medical help. It's usually like that. When Best Offer KC comes in and gives you an offer, it's gold. That's it. It's never changing. They have never backed out of an offer, and there are people in this industry that do that. And as I've gotten to know Mark, there's only one thing about him that I don't like. He's too good of a golfer. Okay, I played golf with the guy. We only played 6 holes. It was after work. He made 4 birdies. I'm like, what's your handicap? He's +2. He's better than a scratch golfer. Now, I know I should have known this because tennis players are good golfers, period. They just are. And he's terrific. But I want you to know as we go forward, you'll hear his commercials, which are excellent. His wife's on there with him as well. She's terrific. But I'm really happy to be working with and endorsing this business for people who have homes that they need to sell and sell quick. Because it's true, 10% of the houses in Kansas City, they sell off market. They're not realtors doing it that way. So Mark and Sarah Beth are terrific at bestofferkc.com. And if you need to sell a house for whatever reason quickly, they will get you a price. They will do it. They even loan. He loans people money before closing. This is not done in this industry. Some people have to move, and then they don't have the cash to move. While they're waiting for the property to close, they'll say, okay, we'll loan you some money to move or for moving costs to do that. Or they'll lend them some money and let them stay there, basically rent-free for a period of time until the thing closes. They really, really are different. If you want to call bestofferkc.com, you can call Mark and his staff at 816-338-SOLD. That's 816-338-SOLD or bestofferkc.com. I just wanted you to know he's a good dude. I've gotten to know him. I think we're fast friends. I am honored to be representing their company, and I am convinced 100%, my word to you, they are different than the other guys if you need to sell a home. Bestofferkc.com. Welcome aboard, and thank you for trusting me to spread the word about your fine company. That is always an honor, and it's flattering when a sponsor says, Kevin, we would really appreciate it if you would talk about our company a little bit. I couldn't be more honored to do that for bestofferkc.com. All right, this is Uncanceled. When we come back, you're not going to believe what happened on CBS last night on 60 Minutes. They just basically waved the white flag after their executive producer resigned. That is next on KCMO Talk Radio.
Kevin Kietzman, Uncanceled. 10 to 11 a.m. on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
How about a little law and order update here before we get to the 60 Minutes clip I'm going to play for you? Colorado Springs over the weekend, 114 illegal alien gangbangers apprehended by DEA and ICE. I love that. I just love it. There were 200 people partying at an underground nightclub. Underground nightclub means the whole operation was illegal. And they did a really nice job rounding these folks up. There's video of it everywhere. They were fantastic. I have one lurking question from this event. The private security that was working this event, 17 of them were active United States military personnel. What happens to them? Were they breaking the law? How could you be in the United States military and you're working private security at an underground nightclub and not know that that's illegal what's going on and not know that this is MS-13 and Tren de Aragua members? They had to know. What happens with it? Does that bother you? When I heard 17 active duty military were working security for this thing, that's terrifying. What in the world is that? Tom Homan speaking tough about a lot of different things. He says Fort Bliss in Texas is about to be used to house illegal aliens that they apprehend. That's awesome. In El Paso is where that will be, at Fort Bliss. It's in El Paso. Then in Wisconsin, a judge was arrested in Milwaukee for aiding an illegal alien and impeding the process of securing that alien and turning them over to the feds. Donald Trump has put 100 signs on the White House lawn with pictures of sex offenders, drug criminals, all illegal aliens. Tomorrow's the 100th day of the Trump presidency, and they will celebrate with 100 signs on the lawn, the pictures of 100 illegal aliens they picked up that are hardened criminals. Unbelievable. All right, on to 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes did its show last night, and at the end, hey, it's our final minute, whatever. Scott Pelley comes on, and they're all out of sorts. Their executive producer, Bill Owens, resigned this week and said, I can't work here anymore because I have bosses telling me how to run this place. And I want to run it the way I've been running it forever, which is anti-Trump, anti-Trump, anti-Trump. Trump, 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 Trump. The entire thing. And the new owners, Paramount is merging with CBS. The new owners are watching over me now, and I'm no longer independent and have total creative freedom over this show. So I'm quitting. So Scott Pelley, this is really bad. When you're listening to this, ask yourself, is he talking about an executive producer of a TV show or is he talking about Jesus? This is unbelievable. Scott Pelley, on behalf of the entire staff, about Bill Owens, their executive producer who resigned. Give this a listen.
Bill resigned Tuesday. It was hard on him and hard on us, but he did it for us and you. Stories we pursued for 57 years are often controversial. Lately, the Israel-Gaza war and the Trump administration. Bill made sure they were accurate and fair. He was tough that way. But our parent company, Paramount, is trying to complete a merger. The Trump administration must approve it. Paramount began to supervise our content in new ways. None of our stories has been blocked, but Bill felt he lost the independence that honest journalism requires. No one here is happy about it, but in resigning, Bill proved one thing. He was the right person to lead 60 Minutes all along.
I mean, the hubris of these people, the gall, the arrogance, that was just dripping with arrogance from Scott Pelley. You know, there's a new parent company and they're merging and the Trump administration is going to have to approve it. Now, they haven't stopped any of our stories, but we still don't like them and we don't like it. And Bill had to leave and, oh, it's terrible. Well, let me ask you this, Scott Pelley. If that's what's going on, are you basically telling me Bill Owens is the only one with enough integrity to resign over this? Why don't you quit? Why doesn't Anderson Cooper quit? Why don't you all quit over this? All of you, walk away. If he's so great, if he's your Jesus, and he did that, oh my God, he did this for us, but he did it for all of you as well. He didn't do it for me, Scott. He didn't do it for me. He's been sitting there with his thumb on the scale of journalism for 37 years, bashing Republicans right and left on a show that once upon a time was as straightforward and fair and honest as anything in the world. It was a shining star. 60 Minutes was the pinnacle of journalism. You never watched that and thought, this is biased. They're telling us the truth. They're finding uncomfortable things, and they're putting it out there for people to see. They were literally shining the light in darkness, as journalism is the call to greatness, and they were it. And along the way, probably about the time, like everything else in this country, about the time Obama came around, they started doing stories on racism, and America sucks, and we're awful, and Obama's telling us we're awful, and we got to hate each other because we do terrible things to one another, and it'll never be fair country, and we need to change everything. We were colonists. We built this all on racism, and everything is wrong, and it's got to go. And then along came Trump after Obama, and oh, my God, now Trump is the enemy, and we got to get on Trump and Trump and Trump and Trump, and they've done it, and Bill Owens has been right there all along. And yes, somebody finally said at Paramount, you know what? He won the popular vote. They brought this man back for a second term. They like him so much. Americans apparently like waving the flag and being patriotic and going to NASCAR races, and they root for the military, and they honor soldiers, and they like police officers and firefighters. Who the hell knew that? It's unbelievable to hear these people react. Scott Pelley. All right, we got about a minute left in this segment. Let's check out Wes in Gladstone. What's up, Wes? Good morning.
Yeah, Scott left out the fact that 60 Minutes CBS is being sued for $20 billion by Trump, right. and he's got a hell of a case there. And you're exactly right. Those members of the armed forces that were doing security at that nightclub, they need to get into that and find out, hey, has the military been infected with these gang members? That is serious, Kevin. You're exactly right.
It's a huge problem, and the feds that did the raid knew they were in there. They said, when we went in, we knew that there were active military people providing security here. I want to know what's going to happen to them. I think that's the really interesting part of this story is what happens there. But, yeah, you're so right about 60 Minutes and Trump. He's suing them. He's never going to get $20 billion. He'd probably settle for $20 million right now just to have the win, which is what he did with ABC. He won that. I think he's going to sue all these people and settle and take all that money and build his presidential library. That's what I think he's doing with the money. Honestly, he's going to win them all. He's going to win every one of them. He's the president. It's awesome. Great call, Wes. Thank you, sir. Yeah, that was just terrific. No, he's exactly right. But, I mean, seriously, a $20 billion lawsuit, that's more than absurd. He's not going to get $20 billion suing CBS. But, yes, he has a lawsuit going, and Paramount is merging. The bottom line is this. I don't care what reason it is, whether it was the vote, whether it's the fact Trump's in the White House, or whether they're just waking up going, we've just been dishonest. Maybe there's some of that too. The media are changing, and they're saying we have to play this thing somehow more fairly. And Scott Pelley, if you thought that much of Bill Owens and Anderson Cooper and all of you, you should all resign because now you're working for these people that you can't work for. Wow, well played. Uncanceled continues. Stan Weber joins us next. We'll talk about the draft on KCMO.
It's Kevin Kietzman, Uncanceled, on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Well, I've been looking forward to this conversation. Stan Weber's a dear friend, and he's the best football analyst I know. And the Chiefs had a big weekend with the draft, and then the weird stuff around the draft happened. I thought, let's get Stan on the radio Monday morning and get his thoughts. Good morning, Stan. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Awesome to have you, sir. Just your thoughts overall first on the Chiefs draft and what they hauled in with these 7 players.
Well, listening to Brett Veach early last week, he went down and was pretty open, like he is generally, about his thoughts and where the Chiefs need to look. And it was so funny that what he mentioned and the order he mentioned is exactly what the Chiefs got done. That doesn't mean that they pushed anything or forced anything. It just means things fell his way. He said, we've got to address the offensive line, a tackle. We need to do that. The defensive line's important, both inside and outside, and cornerback. Oh, wait a second. That's exactly what the Chiefs did in the draft. So really like the things that they've done. When you look at the players, they're very smart about what they do, and they have an advantage that because they're good, they don't have to worry about just going and doing a basic thing. They can look ahead and say, how can we help? And obviously they did that with Josh Simmons. You look in the NFL, Kevin, the left tackles that are good usually are top 10, top 15 picks in the draft. You rarely get guys late and end up with a good offensive tackle. And the Chiefs took a chance because Josh Simmons was hurt last year when he played for Ohio State. Didn't play the whole year. There's some questions about his injury, but he was a top 10 pick when he did play in this first 5 games or so. So taking a chance on him, I think, was a starting point, a good place to be. And I don't think you need to rush these guys. It's almost an advantage that we won't have high expectations for him. We'll let him develop. And I think you need to take time with those offensive linemen. But you can go further down the line. They did good work.
The second pick, the defensive tackle, Omar Norman Lott out of Tennessee. Is he Chris Jones' replacement when Jones retires, or is that too big of an ask?
That's too big of an ask because Chris Jones is a Hall of Fame player and a dominant player, but you got to think about the position, Kevin. You really have 2 layers of starters. The defensive linemen now, especially the interior defensive linemen in the National Football League, are not expected to play all 65, 70 plays of the game. They really split the job down the middle, and that is what you're going to see in this type of player. Even at Tennessee, he was doing that already, not playing all the time, but he was a specialist at rushing the quarterback. What he does and what the Chiefs need is to get pressure up the middle. And that way he kind of emulates. He's a smaller version of Chris Jones. The thing that Chris Jones does that most NFL teams don't have, the Eagles do, obviously, we saw that in the Super Bowl, is guys who can pressure the quarterback up the middle. Most pressure comes from the edge rushers. In fact, that's a brand new name. We don't call them outside linebackers or defensive ends, Kevin, anymore. We call them edge rushers. They're so important to put pressure on the quarterback. But you know what Chris Jones does differently is he puts pressure right up the middle in the pass rush, and the Chiefs say, we need a little bit more of that, and that's exactly what Omar Norman Lott brings. That's his specialty, is rushing the quarterback. So I do think it'll be a great compliment to Chris Jones when Chris to take his rest. And, oh, by the way, he doesn't only play 50%. He plays a lot more than that. But if Norman Lott can put pressure up the middle, it's something the Chiefs need. They need to get more pressure on the quarterback, and doing it with a guy like this, I think this is going to be helpful. And when Chris Jones retires, maybe he'll have developed into a better player. But right now, pressure up the middle for the Chiefs is needed to help supplement what Chris Jones can bring and maybe give him some one-on-one opportunities finally.
They drafted 2 players that will get the ball in their hands. Wide receiver in the 4th round, Jalen Royals. We love that. The Chiefs draft Royals. And then their last pick, this is an interesting one, Rashard Smith from SMU. Started his career as a wide receiver, but most recently he's been like a kick returner and moving to running back. Sounds like he can do everything. Stan, I get excited when I see the Chiefs make moves to get a player, and they traded picks number 251 and 257 to the Patriots to move up to number 228 to get this running back, Rashard Smith, out of SMU. I'm trying to remember. Can you remember a time that Brett Veach and Andy Reid packaged something and traded up that it didn't work out? It always works out when they move up, doesn't it?
That's so well said. And Trent McDuffie is a highlight along with, those are 2 guys that right in the front of mind that we know about. When they identify a guy, you've got to trust them. And when they make that move, and both these guys just bring some excitement and some speed to the field. You think about Rashard Smith. Here's a guy who moved to running back at SMU, yet he still averaged 5.7 yards a carry at 1,300 yards, but he's even more natural as a receiver where he played for a long time. Don't you think Andy Reid loves to have threats who can get out of the backfield and then get down the field? The Chiefs running back position, and Isaiah Pacheco did a very good job throughout his career, being a 7th-round pick and being a starter, but he hasn't really hurt people in the passing game much, Kevin. This is really an added help. The Chiefs running back core last year was a little bit of a weakness for the Chiefs, not talked about a lot because everyone wants to talk about the offensive line. Upgrading that position and getting flexibility and speed, Smith brings that. And then Royals is another guy where the Chiefs have done a little bit on this draft, Kevin, is betting against the injury front because Royals did not finish the season. He had a foot injury and did not play the latter half of the year. And the Chiefs are like, that's fine. We saw what you did earlier in your career and early in the season, and we project you're going to be ready to roll. And that has worked well for the Chiefs. Think about Trey Smith. He's a guy who just got a franchise tag for the Chiefs, right? That's how well he's played. Remember, they picked him late in the draft because there were some questions about would he be able to play? Would he be 100%? These are the kind of things the Chiefs have bet on in this draft big time, obviously with left tackle Josh Simmons, and then also with Jalen Royals.
All right, Stan, let's talk about Shedeur Sanders. This became a huge story in this draft as he fell all the way to the 5th round. This is the quarterback from Colorado, and for those that maybe don't know, Deion Sanders, the great Hall of Famer, the Colorado coach now, is his dad. This is a very wealthy, high-profile, entitled NFL royalty family, and he acted like it, Shedeur did, apparently, in all of his job interviews. They said he would come in with headphones on and then would put them around his neck, but the music would still be playing, that he'd make really weird jokes and laugh at himself, and that he just carried himself in a way that was awful for job interviews, which is essentially what these are. And that's the reason he fell. Cleveland got him in the 5th round. Do you think he's learned anything from this, or do you think this guy's just going to be a hot mess all the way through?
Well, we just talked about, the spectrum which you could evaluate him on runs as wide as any player we've seen. That's why it was a national story for 3 days, because Cleveland had the 3rd pick, and people thought that they would end up picking him there possibly, and then he just hangs on and doesn't go to the 5th round. He had built a room down in their Texas home where he went to high school, and he had already had a room built for this draft, custom made, where it said legendary. So they want a brand for him to be called legendary. And as you know, Kevin, a little bit of a controversy that Colorado does not want to talk about a lot because they don't want to get Deion mad. But he had his son's number retired after this last season. So what do you get with Shedeur? I mean, you cannot forget that his dad is Deion Sanders, and then some of his actions off the field just give you all kinds of hints. Do you really want this guy in your room as a backup quarterback? You might be able to live with that if he's a starter, but how is he going to handle himself as a backup? Most NFL teams want their backup quarterback to just get along, be quiet, support the starter, support the quarterback coach, the offensive coordinator, and is Shedeur going to be able to do that? The one thing I do want to give the benefit of the doubt to Shedeur, though, is the fact, Kevin, he's been around his father, obviously, his whole life. He has been around his brother, who's kind of a internet sensation, trying to get the family's name out there even bigger and bigger. But he's never been coached by anybody but his dad, high school, then on to HBCU, college, and then now at Colorado. So if he gets away from his dad, maybe he has a chance to decide what he wants to be. And when he plays the quarterback position, Kevin, in the game, he's not that flamboyant guy. He's kind of an understated player who does his job. Hopefully this will be a lesson for him, and he'll go in with a humble attitude and not try to carry on the Deion type of entrance into the National Football League. I think he has a chance to do that. This had to be a humbling day, right. And he has the mentality to, possibly just get back to work. But it was a big, big story, and it didn't stop there. I mean, heck, the prank call was even a big story.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that because this is where, and we'll wrap it up with this one because this is remarkable what happened. We saw on social media a young man had Shedeur Sanders' phone number and pretended to be Mickey Loomis, the general manager of the New Orleans Saints, and called him like he was going to draft him. And at the end of the call said, "No, not so much," and hung the phone up on him. And they all laughed. It was like a frat boy prank. This kid is 21 years old. His name is Jax Ulbrich, and it turns out when you put something on social media, they find out who you are, Stan. They know who it is, and then they connected this. His dad is the defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons, and Jax got the phone number off of his dad's iPad screen when he was at home and pulled off this prank. What should the NFL do here? Now, this kid is called Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur took his call, and he's begging for grace and mercy and apologizing for what he did. And I guess maybe it's really not the defensive coordinator's fault that he had the iPad in his home. You got to trust your kids to not do something stupid like this. But what can be done, and how bad was this?
Well, the NFL gives out these phones to be kind of a secret way of introducing their call, and they got a system in place for the draft. It's a big production. Think about the ratings, Kevin, for a non-football game. So the NFL obviously is embarrassed by this. The Atlanta Falcons say that they are because their coach was involved in it. But I just look at it more about the family. I mean, what kind of situation do you have when your kids are not protective of their father's reputation, of their family's reputation, his job? I mean, the Falcons could have just said, we just fired the coach. But this is just unacceptable, and his kid did it. I mean, they're separating too, but that is just unbelievable that he would go that far when he knows what his dad's industry is, what his business is, how much he's getting paid. I mean, where is the mindset of understanding as a grown-up what's going on, how you treat people? Now, once he gave the number to his friends, I've been around college kids, Kevin. It's no surprise that his buddies goes, you got his number? We're calling right now. And to stop him would be really hard to do. But you just can't let that happen. And social media is crazy because they have video on both sides. Shedeur Sanders was being videoed every step of the way in this draft process because his family is doing that. His brother's doing that. So we saw video out there from both sides with the prank. It was just unbelievable it could happen. There's so many aspects, and who would have ever thought the prank would have come from an assistant coach with the Atlanta Falcons? No way could you make this stuff up.
Yeah. Crazy stuff, Stan. Always great to talk football with you. We appreciate your time as always. And I know this about Stan's sons. They would never have taken a number off their dad's computer and done anything nefarious because that doesn't happen at the Weber house. I can promise you.
Well, there will be some ramifications. Maybe this audience is okay with me saying this, but there is discipline. I believe in discipline with young kids even. So, hey, get off your soapbox, you old man. Okay, I get it. But it starts with the discipline. Yeah, I cannot imagine the conversation I'd be having with my kids if they would have done this.
You're right.
Woo!
And I say stand firm on your soapbox, Stan. We love you. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time as always.
Okay, take care. Thanks, Kevin.
He is Stan Weber, and there's the latest on the NFL Draft and the weekend haul for the Kansas City Chiefs. When Uncanceled continues a 75th anniversary business in Kansas City, this is pretty cool. We're going to talk with Mark about that next and other fun topics to lighten the load a little bit next on Uncanceled. This is KCMO Talk Radio.
Kevin Kietzman is Uncanceled and back on Kansas City Radio. 10 to 11 a.m. on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Hey, you may recall that Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was robbed. She had her purse snatched with her family at a restaurant in Washington, D.C. on Easter evening as they were enjoying their meal. They apprehended the dude that took her purse. They found him. His name is Mario Leyva, and he's an illegal alien. That's indeed the case. There was a co-conspirator, as there typically are in these rings, because a lot of times you grab something, you throw it in a car window, the person drives off, and you're in it together. The co-conspirator was picked up on Sunday, and he's an illegal alien too. This is the world we're living in, and they are rounding him up, and we're taking care of business. Let's say hello to Mark Van Sickle. Hey,
Hello.
Mark, what's up today, buddy?
How are
Everything
you doing?
good? I'm well. Have you ever been to a drive-in movie?
I actually have not.
I didn't think you would have been to one. You need to take the kids to a drive-in movie. There is one drive-in theater left in Kansas City. They opened Saturday night. It was a free event. They played Grease and Raiders of the Lost Ark. It is the 75th anniversary of the Boulevard Drive-In with a newly fixed marquee and a retooled website that is almost available. It is a great night out with the kids, man.
We were actually going to go last summer, and then there was a big thunderstorm that rolled in, so it ruined our plans. So we need to go this summer.
It's impossible for me to put into words how important the drive-in movies were when I got my car at age 15. It's just where you went. KY 102 was the radio station that did these marathons, like Memorial and Labor Day weekend. It was all-night movies. Like, they played until daylight. They just played movies and stuff all night. It was just one giant, it was thousands of people, Mark. It was unbelievable. That
Sounds
radio
like
station
fun.
was, and I don't even know if we watched the movies. I don't even recall that part of it. So it's one of those things. All right, what do you think about the Eagles at the White House today? Saquon Barkley's friends with Trump, but Jalen Hurts has been acting like he's not going to go. Do we know if Jalen Hurts is going to the White House?
Ooh, I'm not sure. That would be an interesting development, though.
They asked him last week, are you going to the White House? He's like, I'm not really commenting on that. Like, he didn't want to say one way or another. He's got to be there, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's one of their faces of the franchise. He's got to be there. I guess Brady skipped, though.
He did?
Brady skipped one of them, I know.
Because it was Obama or something?
No, just because he didn't feel like going.
Oh, well, that sounds a little weird of Tom Brady.
Yeah,
but,
it's
like,
Brady.
I'm into this. Like, I wouldn't have skipped if it was Biden or Obama. I would have gone. Go to the White House.
I'd go.
I don't know how politics gets in the way of this, but Trump deranges all kinds of people, but not Saquon. They're apparently very good friends. Bobby Witt Jr. has a 19-game hitting streak for the Royals. He got his hit early yesterday. How long will this one go, Mark?
Oh, man. I say it goes to at least 25 games. I'm hoping for a 30-game hitting streak. That would be so cool.
I mean, it's too early to start talking about records and stuff, isn't it? I mean, this is his personal best. Every day that he gets a hit is a personal best for Bobby Witt Jr., but it's too early to start talking about, records and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little too soon. I can't remember what the MLB record is. Do you have it?
I think it was 60-something, wasn't it?
Yeah, that sounds about
Joe
right.
DiMaggio?
Yeah,
56,
a long time. Yeah, there's still plenty of months left for Witt to get that.
Yeah, but the Royals record, that hasn't come up anywhere. It's got to be somewhere around 30. George Brett must have a 30 at some point, or in the 30s, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I'm going to look that up after the show.
There you go. Tomorrow on Uncanceled, Mark answers the question.
We'll have it.
We will have it. He's quite a player. The Royals sure could use some more hitters in that lineup. They've been winning, but not scoring a lot. Now they're back out on the road where they've not been very good. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Get yourself to the drive-in movie theater this summer. It sounds like fun to me. Thanks for listening to Uncanceled. Really appreciate it. And KCMO Talk Radio. The Vince Show is up next.